Hello students, welcome to this YouTube channel. In this particular lecture, as you can see here, that I am introducing BA English Honours Semester 5 syllabus and some of the reading lists. Fundamentally, as you can see that you have already passed your 4 semesters and you have an well accord of the books or the patterns of syllabus that you have to face. Now, what is interesting here, you will find in semester 5 that along with your CC papers, that is core course papers, you have been introduced with the DSE papers also. That means discipline specific elective papers. Now, what you will face in semester 5, you have to face 2 DSE papers, and in semester 6, you have to face 2 DSE papers. That means out of 6 papers, you have to choose any 4. That means from 3, you have to choose 2 in semester 5. And from, again, the 3 options, you have to choose 2 for semester 6. So let us see what are the texts that are in your syllabus for this semester and how this will be completed. Now you see that it is a semester 5, and now I am taking the syllabus for CCT1, that is theory paper 1, and the name of the paper is Women's Writing. You see that in this paper also, just like the previous 4 semesters, you will face some detailed texts and some of the non-detailed texts. And as you know that the questions from the detailed texts, it will consist of 2 and 5 marks, and for non-detailed text, you will face the 10 marks as questions. Now here you will find that I have made a list for the detailed texts. For example, the name of the paper is Women's Writings. So fundamentally, you will find in this particular paper, there are ample references of the texts that have been written by the women writer. Not only that, you have to treat this particular paper from the feminist point of view. There are ample references where the impacts of feminism have been traced in some of the texts that were in your syllabus. But here, in this particular paper, you will find that the theory of feminism has to be taken for consideration with great detailing. So the first topic, the first text, or you will find here the 2 texts are in your syllabus. The first one is I Cannot Live With You. This particular poem is written by Emily Dickinson, and there is another poem that is I Am Wife. Okay, that particular concept, I have finished that, right? The second topic is Sylvia Plath's Daddy and Lady Lazarus. Okay, Sylvia Plath, as you can see, that she is being considered, she is the wife of Ted Hughes, and she is being considered as the famous writer or famous poet who actually belongs to the poetry of confessionalism. That means she is being considered as the confessional poet. So that's why you will get the 2 poems, very significant and very interesting poems. The first one is Daddy, okay, and the second one is Lady Lazarus. So these 2 poems are from Sylvia Plath. Now, when you will find Emily Dickinson and Sylvia Plath, you can find that there are ample references of feminisms, to be specific, as I mentioned there. One particular poem, it is by Maya Angelou, and the name of the poem is Caged Bird. As the name signifies, you can find that the bird can also be associated with the temperament of a female in a typical patriarchal society. The next one, that is Catherine Mansfield's Bliss. This particular text is not to be considered, it's not a poem, rather it's a kind of a short story. Here you can find some psychological aspects, and at the same time, the feminine attributes have been incorporated with this particular short story written by Catherine Mansfield. And the number 5, it is Draupadi. Probably you have heard the name of this particular text. It is by Mahashweta Devi, and it was translated by famous Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, with whom you can attach the theories of deconstruction, you see. And somehow the perspectives of Derrida has been translated by Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak here. But here you will find that Mahashweta Devi's Draupadi as it has been translated by Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak. And whenever we will deal with the theories of translation, how so far the temperament of a translator is in work with the particular texts that have to be taken in general. Now, what happens, that for the book lists, that means where can you trace these texts to be present? Now, the problem is in a single book, you cannot find these writings. Okay, that means you have to try to identify. For example, you can find some poems that are written by Emily Dickinson, Dickinson's poems. From that particular book, you can find that the poems like "I Cannot Live with You" or "I Am Wife, I Have Finished That." And so far as Sylvia Plath is concerned, you will find probably Daddy and Lady Lazarus. This can be taken. These two texts can be traced in internet, obviously. Same is in the case of Maya Angelou. Uh, so far as Bliss is concerned, you have to depend on the internet materials, obviously, for that. But so far as Mahashata Devi's Draupadi, that is translated by with a foreword by Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, you will find it in Critical Inquiry, as it has been mentioned in your syllabus, Volume 8, Number 2, Writing and Sexual Difference. It is published in, it is in the page number 381 to 402. The next text that is significantly present within your detailed text section, and it is written by Rashundari Devi, and it is excerpts from Amar Jivan, that is being published in under the Women's Writing in India, Volume 1. And there are the editors are Susi Tharu and K. Lelita. Okay, it is the Oxford University Press writing. So this is significantly being pointed by the university, and it is being mentioned in the university syllabus. And probably you have to identify these texts either from Gestor or maybe from the texts that have been available in the internet. Probably there are some notebook editions in the market from where you can find the texts at least to be printed in a single book. So far as the non-detailed texts are concerned, these are very significant, as you see that it is Alice Walker's The Color Purple, a very significant and very important text. The second one, as you can see, it is very famous. It's Mary Wollstonecraft's Chapter 2, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Okay, and here the book that have been prescribed, it is Norton Critical Edition, page number 19 to 38. So that is the significant section. Probably if you go with the internet, then ultimately you can identify this particular chapter to be present, where you can find that Wollstonecraft is always in work with the theories of the condition of women, okay, the rights of women, quote unquote. And ultimately you will find that these are the major forms of primary formations of theory that actually inaugurates the typical form of feminist theory, of feminist critical analysis for the future. The third text that falls under the non-detailed texts, it is the Ramabai Ranade's A Testimony of Our Inexhaustible Treasures. And as you can see here, this is published under the Pandita Ramabai through her own works and selected works, translated by Meera Kosambi. It's New Delhi, OUP, that is Oxford University Press. It was published in the year 2000. Okay, and the page number is 295 and 324. So it is not possible for you, as you can see, that to go through the texts, as you can see, as I'm trying to mean here, that all the texts should be bought for you. I think that the libraries will be helpful for you. Okay, go to the college library and try to identify the texts. Okay, and get it photocopied. This will help you certainly. So this particular section, as I've already discussed, the 6 texts that are considered to be the detailed texts, you have to prepare them for 2 and 5 marks. And there are 3 major texts. These are for non-detailed texts, and as you know that the 10 marks questions will come from 1, 2, and 3. Probably there will be the 4 questions, and you have to write any 2. Okay, so next move to the next CC paper, that is the core course paper, and it is as you can see here, these are more famous to or more renowned. You see, these are the British literature of the early 20th century. Okay, you will find that this particular period is considered to be the modern period and modern literature. And ultimately, what I'm trying to suggest here, you will find the similar kind of structure of the paper is there. There are some detailed texts and there are some non-detailed texts. True, Ultimately, in the first group, you will find there are a group of poems from 1, 2, and 3, 4. No, yes, 1, 2, and 3. You will find there are references to the poems, and then Virginia Woolf and Somerset Maugham. These are to be considered as prose or maybe modern short stories. So far as the first one, that is William Butler Yeats or W.B. Yeats. He is the two famous poem. It's called the Byzantium and Sailing to Byzantium. These are very significantly used by W.B. Yeats in his later part of his life, and these are actually indicating some wishes that have to be fulfilled through the poems, and these are actually focusing towards the old age of personalities. And at the same time, you can find some significant references have been made regarding the typical modern society that had been faced by the people, and specifically the poets like W.B. Yeats. The second group of poems, these are to some extent a bit complex kind of poems, as you see. The first one is the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. This particular poem was by T.S. Eliot, and as you can see, this particular poem is being considered to be written by T.S. Eliot at his early age, because it actually falls under the group of Prufrock and Other Observations. This was published under that. And there is another kind of a poem that is named as Preludes. This was also written in the first phase of his writing. Okay, then you can get Hollow Man. Okay, and which particular textbook is good for T.S. Eliot? I will obviously suggest the Oxford edition, okay, where it is edited by Manju Jain. This is significantly very good for T.S. Eliot's writings. Hollow Man was written much later, after, as we see that after Wasteland it was written. So ultimately, if you have to go through Hollow Man, you need to know something about the Wasteland too. And so far as Byzantium and Sailing to Byzantium, these are available in the books, as you can see in the anthologies, where the poems by the modern writers have been taken for orientation. There is W.H. Audin's Unknown Citizen. It's a very famous and satirical poem. Significantly, that was based on the war and some, the anti-romantic representation, or de-romanticizing the war and the war-like tendencies and so. And Auden is too much critical about the particular temperament of or position of a soldier in a particular society, where the politicians are significantly creating war for some smaller enterprises, and that actually is being quote unquote organized butchery of men. So ultimately, for W.B. Yeats and T.S. Eliot and W.H. Auden, probably there is a particular book, as you can see, it is in the Anglican poetry. There you can find it is by it is Thomas, C.T. Thomas. There is a particular references of these texts. But ultimately, these are the famous poems, and you can get the texts from internet. Obviously, these are available, but try to identify whether the texts are authentic or not. Okay, that is very significantly being it is needed. Okay, the fourth text is the Order of Chrysanthemums. It is by D.H. Lawrence, and this is very famous, as you see, because this particular text was used for ICSE and CBSE texts in the earlier version. And then you will find there are two prose works. One is Virginia Woolf's Mark on the Wall. It is very significant, as you see, and Somerset Maugham's Reign. Why Mark on the Wall is very significant and important? Because it actually indicates the stream of consciousness technique, as Virginia Woolf is using. For Mark on the Wall, you can identify the text from modern prose by Michael Thorpe. Yes. From Michael Thorpe's book, that is book on modern prose, you will find Mark on the Wall. And W. Somerset Maugham, The Reign, is also being available in internet. You can go with them. So these are the texts, some poems and the proses, or short stories rather. These are to be considered as the detailed text for your CCT12. Okay. Then you will find the non-detailed texts, and the three texts, the three seminal works have been introduced here. The first one is Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. As you can see, that Heart of Darkness, it actually indicates, and it is being pioneering work in the field of colonialism, and at the same time you can find some colonial enterprises, some oriental aspects have been incorporated and described in Heart of Darkness. and there are the most authentic and the very good edition for Heart of Darkness is the Norton edition. Certainly, the Norton edition, this particular edition for this book is very significant and usable. The second one is a drama. It is by John Millington Synge or James Synge. It is the Riders to the Sea. As you can see, it was in the syllabus for universities for a long time, you see. And the most significant and usable edition for Riders to the Sea, as I think, it is Orient Black Swan. Okay, it is edited by Ashok Sengupta. This book is very good for Riders to the Sea. And you can find a particular edition called, it is by Booksway Publication, Siddhartha Bishwas. This is very another good example for Riders to the Sea. And along with that, you can find there are Oxford editions too. Okay, for James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, it is, as you see, that it is a seminal work again in the field of stream of consciousness novel. Okay, whereas in case of Heart of Darkness, you can attach the term novella, but in case of Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, you will find it is a full-fledged novel written in the stream of consciousness technique. Okay, for that particular book, for reading purpose, as you see, you will find that the Oxford edition texts are very significant, and Oxford edition texts are very good. But what happens, you know, that whenever you will go with the longer texts like these novels and so, you will find that somehow there are no materials, reading materials are not available with them. So if you have to get some materials, think about the Norton editions, okay, because there are some ample the references, some essays are there, some critical essays that will certainly help you, apart from the Indianized versions of texts or Indianized versions of, you know, quote unquote notebooks that will probably help you in your study somehow. But ultimately, I will obviously suggest go with the critical texts, grow with the critical essays, and ultimately try to gather responses from the very good resources. For example, in your library, you will get free access to InflibNet, and there are the references of JSTOR. Okay, and you can download the materials from there. You can download some critical essays, and these will help you to identify the topics and identify the text from different kinds of angles. I consider that these texts are significant, and these texts are these materials will help you more than the than the market materials and so. Okay, so these are the detailed text and the non-detailed text. Detailed text for 2 and 5 marks, and non-detailed text for 10 marks. Okay, so these are the compulsory papers, obviously, and there are 3 DSC papers, and out of the 3 you have to take any 2. Okay, so I will discuss the DSC materials. That means what you have to read and what you have to buy and go with in my next slide or next class, obviously. Okay, thank you.